Okay, hey everyone, welcome back. I believe this life experience is about growth, progression, and learning. Most of us come here to the planet, completely forget who we are, and then at some point, we ideally go on that journey to remember who we are and start progressing. For some, that could be an accident that wakes them up. For someone else, it can be cracking open a book to start on their journey. For me, a massive part of me remembering who I am is when I stepped on that path and I started studying Feng Shui. And today I am truly honored to share someone today that is so dear to me. She is my Feng Shui master and full of so much wisdom, the one and only Tina Falk. Welcome, Tina.
Hi, Jen. Thank you so much.
Hi,
I
honey.
was just thinking today before we came on how you've always been such an inspiration to me. Even that first moment we met in the coffee shop, because you were so clear that you had a path in front of you. You weren't quite sure what that path was, but you were curious and you wanted to just seek, meaning and direction and purpose. And it was like, I'm going to get out of this girl's way and just let her go.
Get out of my way. You walked beside me, girl. In fact, for a minute, for a while, you 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 led me in such a huge way, and then you walked beside me, and I had no idea what my journey was going to be with you. I thought I was signing up for one thing, and it was so much more. And that is why I'm so excited to share you with my platform and my people today, because you have impacted my life on such a deep level. Do you even know how much you've impacted me?
Probably not.
Yeah, you don't.
We never do we?
Yeah, but I had no idea that signing up for this journey to study feng shui, that for me, my love for, you know, my surroundings, my home, design, that is what brought me towards feng shui. And I know you love when people are like, wait, I thought it was rearranging furniture. And you're like, whoa, that's so off base as far as what feng shui really is.
Hmm.
But for me, that's what, because I've always known that, living in a certain space, I could feel a certain way as opposed to living in a different space. And the people that are around me also bring a certain energy. And so it just put me on a path to healing that I had no idea really how deep it was going to go. And I feel like in our journey together, on our journey together, I really found myself in a massive, massive way.
You do. That's, I think, one of the greatest gifts, when you step into that deep dive of feng shui, is we have to start with ourselves, right? If we don't understand and if we can't walk and talk what we're trying to share with people, because people feel it, they feel it when you're, not being authentic. And we have to go there. And if you don't, you kind of miss that opportunity. And I'm not saying that you have to go there, but it's right there in front of you. And then you get somebody, a guide or a teacher who's ready, and willing to be there in a compassionate, empathetic, yet firm way to see you through those lessons and those aha moments. It can just be, it's pretty cool. And I think the reason why it's so important for me to pay that forward to my clients and my students is because that's what the masters who, showed up for me, that's what they did for me. That's the path that they walked. And they always did really good at trying to make me feel like an equal, that we were walking side by side. Even though in my eyes, oh my gosh, they're my master. They were on a pedestal, they were up here. And so it's always been on the forefront of my thought and how I present myself and how I befriend people, that I want them to know that I'm trying my best, that we are equals. And I'm not trying to pretend that I know any more than you do, because you absolutely came with your own skill set and your mindset and your own experiences that make your journey really unique.
Yes, that's what it is with you. What you just put into words is why it is so special. That is something that's so special about you, is that you treat people as an equal. I'm so grateful that you just said that, because to me, I immediately felt comfortable with you the moment I met you. And I was on a journey for some time before that, trying to figure out my belief system. I didn't know up from down. I had been through what I call my dark ages, which is my belief system crumbling that I was born and raised in. And then me walking out of that, moving on, and then going, okay, now what? I don't know where to go now. I don't know. I don't have a mentor. I don't have someone to lead and guide me. And so I was really searching for a while. And and I would come in contact with certain people, and I would have some gems of knowledge and some gifts there, but it wasn't someone that I feel like I could have spent hours and hours with. And quite honestly, a lot of people in the spiritual realm would freak me out because they were a little weird, and they were speaking on another level, or out there in the outer space, and I'm like, whoa, come back to earth. I'm not understanding what you're saying, because they were just too far out there. And I feel like you are so good at meeting people on that bridge, knowing where they're at, helping them feel comfortable, helping them feel seen and valued, and not like you're up here and they're down there. And that has really helped me in my coaching, because I learned from you. And I remember you saying things to me that I would go, whoa, that you were a mirror for me, is what you were. That's what you were. And you continue to be. I shouldn't say were, you are a mirror for me, but especially during that time, you would point out my gifts to me, and it would I would kind of step back and go, wait, is she talking to me? I'm that, and that's what you see in me. And it really, really helped me heal. And I take that same approach with my clients, because, sometimes when people are flailing and their life is in a hard space, and they come and they feel like, a total shit show, and they're like, they see you and they think that you have it all together and you've never struggled. And you're like, no, I understand. I've been there. I see you. And I still struggle. I still have things that, aren't perfect. And so I love that so much about you, and I appreciate that so much.
You're welcome. And you paying that forward, you seeing that and gifting that forward to your clients and your friends and family that you work with, that just warms my heart, right? Because it's that ripple effect that we're creating by touching people's lives in that way.
Yes.
Thank you.
I love that. With Feng Shui, it has changed my connection with my kids, my marriage, my own self-worth. And it really is why I even do the work that I do, because when I started to learn about how important it is to pay attention to your energy that you're surrounding yourself with, and how how your space is and how it affects your yourself, then I really, really started to pay attention to my inward feng shui, is what I call it, right? When
Yeah.
you're really focusing on, okay, this is all nice and good out here, but now what am I doing here in my mind, in my thoughts, in my belief system? So explain to people that have no idea what feng shui is, just in layman's terms, what is it?
Well, I'm going to go off of what you just said, because I think what you just said is really important. And my response to your question totally depends on the setting, who's asking the question, right? It could be somebody, some guy that is like just asking me for fun. My response to him is going to be completely different about what feng shui is. Because I don't think there's a blanket way to say it. I could go to the well, feng shui means wind, water. It's looking at the seen energies and the unseen energies, and looking at those energies so that we are in alignment, so that our inner feng shui is in alignment with other people's feng shui and our environment. Because a lot of times, especially like in the work that we do, we might host a retreat, or we have somebody who we're on a call with for an hour or two, and they're like moving through, they're healing, they're stripping away, they're really, making some progress in their life. Well, as soon as they hit end meeting and they get up and leave their office and walk upstairs to a mess on the floor, or the kids arguing, or an accident, something happened, what just happened? That's not an alignment. It's almost like hitting the cancel button on the last 2 hours.
Right.
We often don't realize that we're like almost resetting ourselves because we're not allowing ourselves to transition, safely from one situation or time period into another time period, or from this sacred space into the rest of the space. And a lot of us, we don't see our homes as sacred spaces. We don't see them as they should be treated with reverence, and our home should be like an altar that is constantly speaking to us and telling us what's broken, what needs fixing, and what needs attention, what part of our lives is doing really well. And so for me, it's always about finding that alignment, because my feng shui master has told me a story, and I'm sure I said this to you in your training, and it always was such a clear picture. And she said, say you have a drunk uncle, and finally you send him off to rehab, and he's gone for 90 days. He's done a lot of work, right? He's detoxed his system, he's creating new habits, he's creating new mindset. Well, you don't bring him home and put him in the same chair with the same view that he sat and got drunk in for 20 years. It's not supporting him. We need our environment to support our growth. And so that's kind of where, maybe more of the modern feng shui comes in, about color and furniture and flow and that kind of stuff. But, some of us, we move into houses and we're there for 10, 15 years. And if we haven't changed it and it's not keeping up with, well, gosh, we moved in when our kids were in kindergarten and now they're in high school and they still have pink bedrooms and cars on the wall. That growth? Is that keeping up and supporting our growth and our awareness and our relationships and our expansive dreams that we're having for ourselves? I think that's what feng shui is striving for, is alignment.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that. Okay. So what, I've had some cool, crazy experiences with feng shui, and I know I shared some of them when we were meeting together, which I'm trying to think of when it was. I think it was 2014.
Mm-hmm.
That's
It
what my
was.
guess is, almost 7 years ago. Wow.
I
6, 7
know.
years ago. So I've seen some really, really cool things. And at first, I would come home and I would tell my husband, Danny, that, at first I was kind of nervous for him to even know what I was doing, because I didn't know that he would be open to it, because he was very logical. And, if I say, oh, I'm going and doing this feng shui course, he would be like, what in the world is that? And so I did tell him, I'm going to go study this design. And it really is the design, the art of feng shui, right? But as I started to learn, I started to share with him. And at first he was like, whatever, kind of resistant. And he saw so many things along the way that he couldn't deny. And I use him as an example because he's so logical and so, he was starting from a space of neutrality. Like he didn't have any information about it. And as I would share it, it would sound silly, like, oh, this is gonna make a difference here, and or this is because of this. Um, One of the biggest things was our front door that
Oh.
we had put the security door on our front door, and it was a year-long fight because I wanted the door gone and he wanted to keep it because it helped him feel safe. So his intentions were really valid when he was at work, knowing that his family was safe, right?
So before you go on, to share
Yeah,
why you didn't like the security door. What was
yeah,
the vibe it was putting off for you?
yeah. So for me, it was fear. It was like we
Mm,
slapped a door of fear on our front door, which is where your chi comes in. It's a big, big part of your it's a big part of feng shui is your front door. It's such a big deal, right? And
mhm,
so when people would come to the door, they didn't know what to do because you've got like bars on
mhm,
your door. And in some areas that would be necessary and maybe it would make me feel safe. Maybe that would be the energy of it in a certain area,
mhm.
but it wasn't where we lived. It was really out of place. Like people would come to the front door and be like, "Whoa, what is this? What do I do with this?" Right? And so, anyways, we and I was working with you at the time, and I was sharing it with you, and I don't even remember the wisdom that you shared with me, but you helped me. You helped guide me through it, and we compromised on a storm door, and I remember the day that we removed that door, Danny won almost $1,000 in a football bet that he had made, and he was like, whoa, okay, I see it, because I said, honey, this is where like your wealth comes in, like this is a big deal, right?
Mhm.
And it was affecting us financially. It was because we had slapped a door of fear of stay out, and that was affecting our finances. It was affecting, a lot of things. But so what are some of the craziest things you've seen? Like give me an example of something that you've seen, because I'm sure you have so many
Oh my
stories.
gosh. I do have some. I have a lot because it's been a while. I do.
Is there one that stands out to you that you're like, wow?
Um, yes, but I'm not sure if it's kind of a twist on the feng shui. Um, a lot of it is just shifting people's stories and shifting their mindset. Kind of like what you had to do with Danny around what this door. It's like we have to understand the energy, the symbolism, the vibration that it's putting off. And if you're creating confusion when people come to the door, no matter what comes to the door, opportunities, that check from Publishers Clearinghouse, whatever it might be, is going to go, is this safe? Do I want to go here? Do I dare ring the doorbell? What's on the other side? Do they have an attack dog? What am I going to get met with? So anytime we put off any kind of confusion, right? We know what it's like when we walk into a room and like we have our kind of, grumpy face on. People don't want to approach you, right? Or they're nervous, apprehensive to approach you. So you're right on. The door is such a profound feature because it's called the mouth of the dragon. This is where the money, the food, and the energy comes into your home, good health, and all of that.
Mm.
So I'm trying to think of of a feng shui thing, but before I do, I want to get this one out of my head because this is kind of a twist on that. Because I think have a tendency when we get into this woo woo world that we get too hung up in the woo woo and we forget the other stuff. And so I got several messages from a client who was having water issues at her home. In fact, she was having flooding issues at one of her businesses as well. But now it was happening in her home. She kept texting me and saying, I need to have you come out. I need to have you come out. Well, she never scheduled an appointment. And it was like weeks and weeks went by. And I thought, if everything must be okay. So finally she scheduled an appointment and I went to her home, and I didn't know where the water issues. I didn't know if it was coming from a neighbor, from the city, if it was in the house, in the walls, or what. So I sat there. We visited for almost 2 hours as she went on and telling me about all of the drama with the businesses and with the home. And as we know, water is all about emotion, right? So I'm trying to uncover any emotions that, are caught up in any of this, because it's an overflowing, right? And it's abundance of emotions that can't be contained. So now it needs to leak out, or it needs to seep through. And so as she's talking, I'm discovering that it's coming through the walls, because it was a little bit hard to track her, which is also kind of water energy. That's kind of, you spill water on the table and it's like you kind of scramble for a second until you get some control of what you're doing. That was kind of her energy. And she spent a lot of time telling me everything she was doing Feng Shui wise to remedy the issue, calling in her angels and putting out the crystals and putting out her intentions and all of that. And all of a sudden, it was like something thumped me in the head, and I said, "Have you called a plumber?" That was like a foreign language. She had not even considered calling a plumber.
Whoa.
We have to address the mundane. We have to address the practical.
Yeah.
Stop the flow,
Yeah.
right? We need to fix the break, understand what the break represents, and then we fix ourselves. But we can't fix ourselves and put crystals and stuff up expecting for a material dense thing to fix itself. And that's one of the most memorable, because I see on a lot of Facebook groups and stuff where we would just want that quick fix. We just want to believe so much too in those other realms, and that angels exist, and that I have a higher power and I can create. But we have to be practical too, because we're on this planet.
Yes.
We have certain things we have to kind of work around and work with. And
That's fascinating, because you would think that would be the first thing, right? You call the plumber and then it keeps happening. And then you go, okay, well, what's energetically going on, or what's going on with me?
mm-hmm,
But that is a good point, because I have heard where certain people, like I've had one of my friends tell me that she's had a couple, her basement has flooded twice, right? I'm like, that's crazy. I've never had a flood. You know what I mean? So when you see that someone has had, and they were completely different issues the first time and the second time, like I think the first time a pipe broke, and maybe the second time it was something happened with her fridge. And so it does make you go, I wonder what's going on. Same thing when someone has 3 car accidents in a year, right? So then you start to go, well, what's going on here? From what's the energy of this? Sometimes I'll talk to people. I remember talking to one lady, and she has been held at gunpoint 3 times. Three
whoa,
times in her life. Well, then at that point you go, okay, that's bizarre for one person to ever have a gun put to their head, but you've had it 3 times by 3 different people. What's going on there? You know what
yeah,
I mean? But I agree with you. That's funny in a sense to think like the first thing you would do is, call a plumber, right? It's like, yeah. So like with me, the first thing I would do when my husband puts bars on the front door is I would say, honey, take the bars off. And then if that doesn't work, then I start trying to go, to plan B, and then C,
yeah.
and then D, until eventually it happens.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to just start wishing them away or praying that they're going to go away.
Yeah.
I
I
have to
mean,
logically.
you can to an extent. You can put, because you're so wonderful at manifesting through your affirmations and positive thinking and all of that. But, when it comes to something that's broken, if you don't have gas in the car, you can go sit in that car and wish that it's going to get you to work. But
Yeah.
if there's no gas, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, but that's such a great point though, because I feel like that's another thing that I see so much with people is we are spirit in a human body. And so I will see people way over here on their human side or way over here on their spirit
Mhm.
side, which is why when I was just coming from this human side, searching to get more in line with who I really am, which is remembering I'm a spiritual being and remembering that we are creators and all of that. And I was coming into contact with these people over here that were like way out there just in their spirituality, then it was just hard for me to even meet them on that
Mhm.
bridge, you know. But
Yeah.
really, that's what I love so much about you is I could sit and have a conversation with you and you keep it real, you know. Every once in a while you swear, which is like, okay, cool. This woman, like she, you know, she keeps it real. And so
Mhm.
you do have that logical side to you, even though you are very, very deep and spiritual and wise. But
Thank
that's
you.
awesome. I love that. I love that
Mhm.
story. That's hilarious. But I remember also when we started this journey, you're like, now, Jen, once you do this, you can't ever like think you can't go back. Things will never be the same. So I no longer can ever go to DI. Not that you couldn't, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just feel it when I go in there. I'm like, oh my gosh, like it just feels like so much, I feel so much stagnant energy
Mhm.
once I walk in
Yeah,
there.
that's a
But
lot of energy, in
right?
one place. That's a lot of energy. I don't know if you've seen this show. I was just been trying to find things to binge watch, and I can't even remember what streaming platform it was on, but it was the Seatbelt Psychic.
Mm-mm.
Have you heard of this guy? He's out in Hollywood, and the whole kind of series was him like driving like a ride share, like an Uber. And
Mhm.
so people would get in the back seat and then he'd be like, hey, do you believe in mediums or psychics? And they'd be like, ah, whatever. Or yeah, well, I happen to be one. And then he would do a reading. Well, he picked up this one girl and she got in the car and he started down the road and he's like, I'm going to have to turn around and go and take you back because I can't take you any further. And she's like, oh, okay. And he was just very uncomfortable. His head was hurting. And he said, because when you got in the car, it felt like there was 200 people that got in with you. And she said, oh, that's interesting. That would make sense. I'm a mortician.
Oh my
And
gosh.
that's that kind of energy
Well,
that we don't realize that lingers, in
yeah,
furniture or clothing or used items. It's like how many people have owned that?
yeah,
How many people have slept in that bed or
yeah,
used that dresser to hide whatever or put their clothes in? That those things absorb the energy, and we just unless I'm all about reclaiming and recycling and renewing and all of that. It's just being mindful about bringing them home, letting them sit out in the elements, giving them a good clean and a blessing so that they're clean and you're not bringing that energy into your home.
yes. I know. I think about like thrift stores where it's like, think of how many people have like, passed away in a space and all their stuff was donated, or divorces and all their stuff was donated, or just all the energy that's attached to those things. I remember talking with someone once and she was telling me how her and her husband were having so many fights and how they were just having such a hard time in their marriage. And somehow we got to the conversation of their bed. And because of my feng shui background and my work with you, I asked, she mentioned something about purchasing this bed and that she got it off of like,
Mm.
KSL or whatever. It was like a used bed. And I said, wait, you have a used bed? And she said, yes, but it's a really nice one, really good condition. Almost, like it looks brand new, but this woman was going through a divorce and so she purchased it from them. And I was like, no, 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 get rid of the bed. And I don't know, maybe you could sage it. For me, I'm like, just get a new
Mm-hmm.
bed. You know what I mean? Especially if you feel like your marriage is really affected and now you put two and two together that you just purchased a bed from someone that was going through a divorce. But I truly believe that you're bringing that energy in, and now you're sleeping on it. And that's the bed is one of the main areas to pay attention to, right? So I would like for you to even, because I know there's so much, but give people like their top 3 to 5 things that people can do. Or if someone said, hey, Tina, like just give me, just a quick list of things that I should pay attention to that are major things when it comes to feng shui in my home.
Yeah, that's good. Um, I'll give one and go off of the conversation we've just been having. So whenever you're going to move into a place that's been, you know, other people have lived there, or if you're bringing things in that other people have owned, ask questions. You know, she knew that this bed was coming from a woman who's going through a divorce. That's not a home I would want to live in. That's not a bed I would want to sleep in. I'm not sure if there's enough clearing or, blessings to do that. But if that gets into my energy, I don't need that. Marriages are not enough, right? We don't need another couple's energy to come into our
Right.
our energy that we have to try to figure out.
Yeah.
Because I don't think people realize how sensitive we are.
Mhm.
We can say just because somebody cries a lot or they, their feelings get hurt, that they're the sensitive ones. That's so not true.
Yeah.
There's a lot of assholes out there that are the sensitive ones. They're assholes because they're sensitive and they're trying to block people and create boundaries and keep things at a safe distance. So another one is the front door. We talked about that. Really allowing the front door to be, like the stage of your life. And so when people are driving past your house, you want them to be looking at your house and sending good vibes. It's like, oh, she always gets her plants out first. I just love her pots. Or, oh, look at that cute flag they have up. Or, I love the color of that front door. You don't want somebody driving by your house and going, when are they going to pull those weeds? Oh, it's just that car's been sitting out there forever. I wonder if they're even okay in there. We want to create an energetic pattern that goes to our front door that's positive.
Yeah.
It's a lot like when people are driving by your business on the side of the road. Sometimes we drive by businesses and we can't even tell, are they even in business? Right? It's old signage, it looks black, there's nobody parked out front, or it doesn't look very welcoming because maybe it has a big, safety door on the front. We want to make sure that we're creating good vibes for the front. We want our neighbors and the people that drive by to be sending us positive energy, because that's part of the energy that's coming in that front door. And use your front door. If you go out and get the mail, go out and get it through the front door and bring it back in through the front door, because we don't usually use our front doors that much. Pull in the garage and in that way.
Yeah.
The second thing is I would look at the center of your house, like the geographical center point. So like from end to end and front to back, where those two lines cross, where's that center point? Because that's kind of the hub of the wheel. That represents our health and our tai chi and our life and our overall well-being. Unfortunately, here in the West, there's usually stairs or a bathroom or a hall closet, something in the center like that. So we want this area to be free of any obstruction. We want it to flow. We want it to just be not cluttered with anything. So if you have a bathroom, go under the sink and clean out any toxic chemicals, organize, get rid of things that are outdated that you're not using, and just really simplify and organize under the vanity. Same with the closet. Get in there, make sure that it's easy to get things in and out. Because, when you're in a closet and you're sitting there and you're grunting and moaning and cussing because you're trying to get something to fit or something hits you in the head, that's kind of like that energy that you're sending to your front door. So we want this to be really flowy energy. On the stairs, don't clutter the stairs. Sometimes we place things on the stairs for our kids to grab on their way up or on their way down to their room. Don't do that. Make sure, there's another place that you can put things. We don't want to narrow the path of the stairs because, we want to get back to the practicality, is it creates a tripping hazard. And 2 is it chokes the chi. It narrows the path even more. And so we just want to keep things as wide open as possible in the center. And then I think for my final one, because if I were to have 15 minutes in your house, I would hit the front door, the center, and then the master bedroom. And I want to make sure that, when you're standing kind of at the foot of your bed, looking at your bed, that it's balanced. Both sides are balanced. There should be two nightstands. If there's lamps, they should be, two, and those should be equally weighted. If you've got one taller piece or heavier piece with a higher light on one side as opposed to the other side, that's an unequal relationship. That relationship's out of balance. So one's going to be higher and one's going to be lower energy. I would make sure there's nothing under the bed, anybody's bed, because we want the chi to flow. We don't want the chi to get cut up and hung underneath our bed, because then we're restless and we don't sleep well. I would also take a look around and make sure that everything is up to date. If there's anything that's broken or unfinished, finish it. If it's a pile of papers, it probably doesn't belong in your master bedroom. If it's a pile of laundry, get it cleaned up and put away. If it's a window that's cracked, get the window replaced. If it's a window that won't open, get that fixed. If the carpet is outdated and needs refreshed, I would do that too. The healthier you can make an environment that you're spending a long time in, like your bedroom, because when we're sleeping, we're recovering, we're recouping and regenerating and healing. And we want to make sure that we're doing that in a healing space. It doesn't need to be the most beautiful room on the planet. It needs to feel good.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Okay. So I have a couple questions based on that. So under your bed, what about if somebody has like rose quartz crystal? Is that good to put under your bed? That's okay?
Yeah, if you have a crystal or you're putting like an intention box or a pyramid or something under your bed,
Okay. So
absolutely.
just that, just something that's intentional and putting this under there. Because one thing I like to do is I actually have a mirror with a gold
Like a frame.
frame. And then on top of it, I have my I ams written out, my intentions, my I ams, what I want to create and manifest, and then the rose quartz on top of that. Is
That's
that good?
beautiful. I love this.
Okay, cool.
That's a great idea. I have a student up in Wyoming and she has a client, and the client was complaining, well, among other things about her weight. She had put on 45 pounds. Well, through a couple conversations with this woman, she had food storage under her bed.
Wow, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people put their gun under their bed,
Yeah.
right? That's not something you want. You don't want
No,
that. That's
because,
like
yeah, that's,
fight energy to
mm-hmm.
me.
It is, because it's going to put, somebody's going to be offensive and somebody's going to be defensive. That's just a
Interesting.
natural, I mean, why else? That's what a gun's for. And if that energy is there, and it's a metal energy and it's a fire energy, right? Because when you fire the gun, it creates, that impact, that heat. And so it's that speed and that heat, along with the metal of the gun and the bullet, that creates a very volatile energy.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
Hot metal is very volatile.
I don't know that I ever told you this, but I remember the that red can be good in small pops or whatever, but too much of it can be overwhelming or possibly create feelings of anger or I don't know,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
Anxiety. Yeah.
the first year that Danny and I got married, our bedroom was red. We moved into this home and the whole bedroom was red. And we did fight a lot our first marriage, our first year of marriage. But as I'm listening to you explain this, I'm thinking some questions that some of these ladies are going to have for you, Tina, maybe the men too. But if they feel like they're getting plowed over by their spouse, can they get a super big lamp? Will that help? And then just their spouse comes home and they have this huge lamp on their side. I'm kidding.
Like a whole line of floor lamps sitting there.
They have all these lamps on their side. No, I'm just kidding. No, awesome. That's great. Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
and the color and the element and all of that, really, we want to make sure that if we're choosing colors for your space, no matter what room it is, that we're looking at your Chinese astrology chart to see what color is best for you, because a color is going to resonate with, different vibrations in your chart. And somebody who doesn't need fire energy, that red heat, you add fire to fire and you just get more fire.
Yeah.
So it's knowing your natal chart, Chinese
Mhm.
chart, before anything.
Yeah. Awesome. But still, isn't even like, even if they had really low fire, wouldn't a whole room be too much red
Hmm.
for
That's
pretty
too
much
much.
everyone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Um,
especially for a bedroom, it's
mhm.
fire's too active. The
Yeah.
bedroom should be very yin, very quiet, and very still.
Yeah. Love that. Okay. So, what is your take on what's happening in the world right now? I've got to know.
Well, um, I think the one thing I've learned is that you know, I don't think we can predict like we used to. And I think that started occurring around 2016 with that presidential election in 2016. It was a fire monkey year. And that speaks to that volatility. The monkey is a metal animal. It was a yang fire year. And monkey is unpredictable anyway. And they couldn't predict anything. They couldn't predict the polls. They couldn't predict an outcome. And I, it feels to me like, because what we do is we can pull charts, we can fly the stars in classical feng shui and take a look at the changing energies. And as an astrologer, it's really important for me to track, right, the patterns. It's being able to see what's happening and why. And I think we've had this discussion before that there's, there's a grander picture here. And whatever that is, I think for any of us try to figure it out, it's like there's better things we could do with our time, right? If we just focus on ourselves and focus on our lives and our people who are important to us, and stay in our lane about what's important to us. Because it feels like we're on the edge here of some huge shift. And I know a lot of people keep saying that, oh, we're on the edge of this shift. Well, it's not night and day. It's not like, going from 2020 into 2021 and it's, this is great. It's a process. It takes a long time for things to change. However, I think we're seeing, especially with the vaccine, whether you're for it or not, you have to agree that the speed in which it was produced and the efficacy of it and all of that is like light years ahead. And we're really speeding up here.
Mhm.
I think we can feel a sense of the time speeding up and things accumulating and culminating. And I feel there's a sense of urgency. But because of the energy that's present right now in 2021, we're needing to just step back and slow down,
Yeah.
because it's really easy to get too far ahead of ourselves and miss all the opportunities that are coming. It's kind of getting back to basics, getting back to practicality of life. What is important? And because this year is an ox year, and the ox energy that's moving in, he hasn't been here for 12 years. So it's been a while. It's been 2009. Think about 2009. That was a recovery year, because in 2008 was a financial crisis brought on by the rat, which we had in 2020 with the pandemic. So we're recovering, and we have to kind of turn up what the ox does is he plows the field. So he's turning up the soil. He's bringing all the stuff that's been kind of hidden in the dark, wet dirt, and he's turning it over and exposing it to the light. Does it deserve to be, do we need to let this crop sit for a while? Do we need to let this field sit for a while and not seed it so that it can maybe refresh and give it some time to breathe? Because I think we get in this sense that we have to turn the crop over, quick plant the seeds so we can harvest. And that's like a metaphor for our lives, that we have to make sure that we're always grinding, that we're always, making sure that we're doing this and doing this. And I think the ox is telling us to slow down, take a look back at, because the ox is very much about tradition, the old ways. He's an old, in fact, it's more of an feminine energy of the ox this year. And I see her as being kind of like the mom that you would find like in Little House on the Prairie. Kind of a old school mom. Here's your chores. This is, I don't want to hear complaining. Get to work. This is what you got to do. That's what the energy feels like for this year. Next year is the year I'm kind of concerned about. It's a very energetic year that I feel that there's no more sitting on the fence.
What is next year? Is it tiger?
It's a tiger.
Okay.
It's
Well,
and it's there's more than one tiger in the chart.
well, can I move in and live in your basement next year?
It
Oh
just
my
feels like a
goodness.
huge,
Whoa.
because the tiger, he's all in or he's out.
Mm,
There's no sitting on the fence for the tiger. If he's in, he is giving everything he has, and if he's out, don't even talk to me. And with because there's four animals in the chart, and there's more than one tiger.
where's the other tiger?
There's actually three tigers in the chart next
What?
year.
In the
Mm-hmm.
emotion pillar too?
Uh-huh.
Oh dear. Three tigers and then
Mm-hmm.
what?
A rat.
Three tigers and a rat.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, it
Wow.
it is. It just feels like you have to so many of us sensitive people, it's like, can't we just live in the middle? I just want to live in this field when we all get along, you know. But the world is too dynamic. The pendulum is swinging too big right now. And this tiger energy is going to pull it in such a way that you're going to have to pick the light or the dark.
Wow.
That's just the way
Wow.
it is.
That's
It's
interesting because I was just having a conversation with someone last night and these same subjects came up about how you're having to choose a side, which I mean it definitely feels like more so next year, but I feel it now. I feel that that's already, getting to that place that it's like you're going to have to make decisions at least on where you're at. And they were
I
also
think the two sides will be really clear in
mm,
your world. Because
mm,
I'm not saying necessarily it's a global thing, but in your world,
mhm,
and it might be several things that you're going to have to take sides in. It may not just be one big choice that you have to decide. It's like,
yeah,
I can't stand you anymore. I can't stand the way you chew your food. You're out of here. It doesn't have to apply to everything.
yeah,
But I think there will be a lot of clarity around that,
mm, interesting.
choosing sides, because it's going to be so freaking obvious what's going to serve
Interesting.
your highest well being and what's not.
So this year we have an ox. What else do we have?
I pulled my chart in case you asked. So there's a pig in the emotion pillar, and
Mm,
the pig is very compassionate and giving. The biggest challenge, I think, though, because this is kind of touching all of us in our emotion pillar, is that we want to make sure that we're self-checking and that we're being accountable for our own feelings, because it's kind of easy for pigs to point the finger and blame. Well, if you hadn't done this, then I wouldn't be feeling this way. What? No, you're feeling this way because this is how you're feeling. So we need to own our emotions and quit blaming.
mm,
We have a horse in the day pillar, and that's where our sense of urgency and wanting to go, because the horse has been bored. He got hung up last year with the rat, plus he had the illness star. This year the horse is like, let open the gate. I have stuff to do.
mhm,
And the ox is saying, slow your roll,
mhm,
map out your plan,
mm.
and to do what you can, in big physical ways.
Yeah,
Taking big physical strides, because the horse is about long distance and power and speed and endurance. It's slow, but it's like, this is still a good year to keep mapping out the path that you want, because the career and life path stars in the south with the horse. Then we usually have the tiger in the month pillar, and that month pillar governs our belief systems, our mindset. And so, as long as that tiger's kind of sitting there, which it has for years, because the Chinese New Year changes, and sometimes it's in January and sometimes it's in February. And so that
wow,
tiger is always in our mind, because that's the nature of this planet we live on, is that duality, the two
yeah,
sides.
yeah,
It's about choice. And then we have the ox of the year. The other thing that stands out for the chart this year, because there's the 5 Chinese elements, there's 40% metal in the chart this year.
Wow.
And that's really high. There's great opportunity to make money, but it's also very high structure, organization, big in the tech industry, medical industry, that kind of stuff. Even, I'm kind of wondering too with even the airlines, because we've had high metal last year and high metal this year with the issues we've been having with these airplanes and stuff. Too much metal makes the rest of the earth toxic.
Mm.
And so we have to be careful with that. And also metal in traditional Chinese medicine, it governs the lungs.
Wow.
Thus the Me Too, the I Can't Breathe movement,
Mm.
COVID, the
Mhm.
long haulers. This is still prevalent right now.
Was it really high metal last year as well, or is it also going to be really high metal next year too? Because I remember having a conversation with you and we were talking about that.
Yeah, so last year it was not as much metal, but we haven't had metal for a decent amount of metal for years in
Hmm.
the chart. So last year was like 23.75% metal. This year's 40.
Hmm.
Next year, 0.
Oh, whoa.
So I
Zero.
mean, the COVID thing could literally just stop. Maybe
Inter-
not at the end of the year, but it could literally be kind of night and day.
Interesting.
And it,
That's crazy because Mia, my youngest, she always says, "Mom, I just know," and she's super intuitive, but she's like, "We're gonna wake up one day and COVID's just gonna be gone."
awesome.
So
Way to
when
go,
you
Mia.
said that, and I'm like, I believe you because she tells me things all the time, and she has since she was one, since she could talk, and they then come true. So I listen when she talks, and she keeps telling me that. She's like, "Mom, listen to me. We're gonna wake up one day and COVID's just gonna be done."
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. Well,
I
when is
think
that
even
day, Mia?
That Sylvia Brown predicted that,
Yeah,
in her book.
yeah,
So I don't know about the timing, but
yeah.
with the metal going away, and so, if, I've been telling my clients who have high metal in their charts, because this is an added metal. And so it's even taxing your lungs even more. So you have to be careful. You shouldn't be using any inhalants, like smoking or vaping or anything like that. It's just not healthy. And
Yeah.
it also, metals also your skin, and allergies, that kind of stuff.
Interesting. Okay.
Hmm.
What about, um, oh my goodness, I just lost what I was going to ask you. I don't remember, but oh, yeah, this. So you mentioned that the fall of the real estate back in, I don't even remember I know it was 2008, 2009, but because there's a lag time, so I don't remember when it really started to come into effect with homes going into default and all of that. Uh, but I haven't thought about that. I haven't thought about it being a full 12-year cycle. And there's so much talk about what's going to happen with the real estate world. So, what do you see happening with that?
I don't know much about the real estate stuff. So 2008 was a rat year. The
Hmm.
rat is a secretive energy. It kind of, it's time to expose the secrets. Things come out in the open. And that's what a lot of 2008 was about. There was a lot of, a lack of integrity and, not doing things by the book and letting things slide and letting these poor people who just thought, wanted to live the American dream, letting them buy houses that they couldn't afford.
Yeah.
And so that's the 2008. So 2020, here comes the rat again.
Mm.
Okay, we know rats bring disease, right? They brought the Black Plague, and exposing secrets and bringing things out in the open. And I mean, just think of the imagery. Like the ship sank last year, and the rats were fleeing the ship, and some of the rats went down with the ship.
Hmm.
So the year following is always going to be the ox. And the ox is the secret friend of the rat. So the ox comes in, he says, okay, you've done a lot of stuff in your head and you're planting a lot of seeds and you're projecting a lot of stuff. Because think of rat energy as like very leading edge thought. Like Nikola Tesla had a rat in his chart. It's very on the cutting edge. So it's like pushing us to another point. It's pushing us to another point of expansion or information or technology. Then the ox comes in and says, okay, you've done that mental work. Now it's about doing the physical work. Now it's about being practical, pragmatic, hardworking, and really make sure all of our ducks are in a row. Because tiger is just about pouncing and aggression, going after what it wants in prep, because that's what's going to be the following year. That's the beginning of spring. That's that's like, I'm passionate, I'm driven, and I'm focused on something. And so if we haven't, like, if the rat hasn't shown us something, hasn't exposed something to us, and if the ox hasn't come in and said, okay, we got to get everything in a row here, we wouldn't be prepared and be grounded to jump into that wood energy of the tiger who really wants to just go for it. And I think it's just I think the thing that's what I've loved so much in these last 15, 16 years doing this professionally is all the layers of this feng shui, the astrology part, the elements, the I Ching, the flying stars, the numerology, the chakras, all of that so beautifully layers in. And it's so divine. It's so magical the way all the pieces lock into place and nothing is questionable. And so many times I'm meeting with, people like you, my grads, my students, and it's like, you can't make this shit up. It's
Yeah.
all right there.
Yeah.
It, it's such a powerful tool. However, I just want to put a disclaimer in there that there's some people that use feng shui and this information based, from a fear perspective.
Yeah.
That's not a good place to come from anything, because then
Mhm.
you're going to seek out the things, right, that inform your beliefs already.
Yeah.
So my school or methodology in looking at this stuff is to empower us.
Mhm.
It's just about being prepared. Doesn't mean it's going to, it doesn't have to affect you. You have a choice, right? We have
Yeah.
free will, but it's being prepared. And I
Yeah.
think that's what's important, is knowing what's coming. And it also gives you a little bit of empathy and understanding for the people around you. If you know what the energy is, that we're all getting infected by it differently. Like this ox coming in, some animals don't like the ox. So depending on what your chart is, it may be a really tough year for you. Some animals really get along with the ox, so this could be a really good year for you. It's You kind of need to know where you sit with that, how your alignment is with this big universal energy. So because sometimes we're meant to lay low. This isn't a year we're supposed to act on things, because you're going to hit a brick wall. You're going to lose your funds, whatever it might be. When other years are really supporting you and saying, this is it, go for it.
Yeah.
Pounce on this thing and go for it.
Yes. So, so, so key. So I, that is so beautiful, because I feel like so many times people use these different tools. They'll use numerology or Western astrology, Chinese astrology, feng shui as a, a fear tool, like you said. And I like to think of them as like a roadmap of like saying, okay, hey, Tina, up ahead, you're going to hit this big winter storm. So maybe you want to just stay home and go tomorrow. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? Think of it in those terms. And
Mm-hmm.
that's so beautiful what you just said. And it is amazing how all of them weave together, the magic of them weave together, like they all fit together like a puzzle, like you said. It's
Yeah,
amazing. I
it
love
really is.
it. It's life changing to learn about that. So, will you tell people how they can get a hold of you?
Mm. Yeah, so it's the name of my school and my business is Via Feng Shui, VIA, and I'll spell Feng Shui for you, and I'm sure you'll put it down below. But
Mhm.
it's FENGSHUI. So Via Feng Shui, because life is great via Feng Shui, right? And so I'm on social media. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I have a YouTube channel which has a lot of videos that you can watch. In fact, one of my grads and I, we just did a chart reading. We pulled up a chart of Britney Spears and we did a chart reading of her. And we pulled up Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. We did a chart reading of that power couple. So there's all kinds of goodies on there. And then my website is fengshuivia.me. And I my focus right now is teaching. certifying and training practitioners, and or people who just want to go through the program just for themselves. Because you know how powerful it is, even if you, I mean, because you're not out there being a feng shui practitioner, you're applying it to your work,
Yeah.
but you're not like, that's all I do. So you can go through this. I've had many people go through the training just because they know it's going to better their lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
For
that's
me,
part of it.
it goes out into so many areas, not only my personal life, now my business, even though I do coaching full time, it still helps me so much with uncovering things going on with couples or going on with their finances, their business. Absolutely. It is life changing. Definitely.
All of the graduates that you know are using it in some way, nobody's doing it the same.
Yeah. Oh,
And
that's interesting, isn't
that's
it?
the beautiful part of it,
Yeah.
is that it can just be used, because I came in with my own gifts, my own background, in meditation, in understanding chakras and numerology, and so that was a layer that I brought to it.
Yeah. I love it. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. I love spending time with you. It's always a pleasure. And everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. And I will see you next week. You can find out how to get in contact with Tina. She also does these amazing 4-pillar chart readings that really help give you a lot of insight to yourself, to your spouse, to your children. So check it out. Okay. See you next week.
Thanks, Jen.
Bye for now. Yes, thank you.